So
Tell me again why Alberta shouldn't join the States.
what is this here?
This is a chart of the annual crude oil exports by province to international destinations. So you can see here where all of Saskatchewan's, which is not a huge number, and all of Alberta's, which is 3.358 million barrels a day exported to. So what the point I'm pulling this chart up for is it becomes pretty apparent that there's only two provinces that really,
and those are the two that are most likely to get along, like to fit. They would fit. Just make Saskatchewan and Alberta a state and forget the rest of Canada.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, I don't really have any comment on the chart. Does it say something up above? Well, here I'll read the verbiage here. So, okay, snapshot. This is from the Canada website, the government website. So, almost all Canadian crude oil exports went to the United States in 2023. Crude oil exports continued to grow in 2023, reaching a record high of 4 million barrels per day, an increase of 3% from 2022. This growth was supported by record high Canadian oil production in 2023. In 2023, crude oil exports amounted to 81% of the country's total crude oil production. These exports were valued at $124 billion, representing 16% of Canada's total export value. The United States remains the primary destination for Canadian crude oil, receiving approximately 97% of Canada's crude oil exports in 2023. The remaining 3% was exported to non-U.S. destinations, including the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, France, Norway, Italy, and Hong Kong. Alberta, Canada's largest oil producer, is also the largest source of crude oil exports to the U.S. In 2023 alone, Alberta contributed 87.4% of the total volume exported to the U.S., followed by Saskatchewan with 8.9%. So if you add those two numbers together, you get about 96%.
So I thought more crude went overseas, or was it refined oil that goes overseas then? Like, don't we sell a bunch of oil?
We buy oil.
We buy oil. So how much of that crude comes back to Canada to refine then? Quite a bit, right?
I don't know.
Because that's the weird part, is that we actually have to send it down there, don't we, to refine it, and then we bring it back?
Well, we can keep reading if you want. Here we go. Here's some fun facts. In 2013, crude oil exports ranged from 75 to 82% of the country's total crude oil production. Crude oil production statistics include condensate, whatever that is. Following crude oil, passenger cars and light trucks represent the next largest export category at 9%. Alberta predominantly produces heavy blah, blah, blah. Canadian oil production increased from 3.5 million barrels per day to 4.9 billion per day in 2023. It doesn't really give us that statistic. Kind of tells us where it's going. But, they say we could cut off selling the oil to those guys, but I don't know what happens. What are we gonna do with it?
Well, we will refine it ourselves. I mean, we should be refining it ourselves. I mean, this is part of the problem, right? We're not self-sufficient enough, right?
Right. We just have. My assumption would be that if we refined all the oil, we would still have millions and millions of barrels a day.
So our refined petroleum products imports rose by 5% in 2022 to 478,000 barrels per day. So we bought refined, but it won't tell you if it's coming from the States or not, apparently.
We make our own gasoline here.
Well, is it just the crude that won't? Some of it can't get refined. I think it's the bitumen or the crude or something that they say has to go down there.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Well, I think part of the problem is that's just where all the pipelines go.
Why Canada would rather export oil than refine it. That's from 2014, so I don't know.
What does it say? It's probably better that it's old.
Canada has no identity. No, I'm just kidding. Canada has always been known as a hewer of wood and drawer of water for its reliance on natural resources for economic growth. And nowhere is this more apparent than the way the country handles its extraction of oil. Despite boasting one of the highest proven oil reserves in the world, second only to Saudi Arabia at 175 billion barrels, a high percentage of Canadian crude is shipped across the border for refining in the U.S. This has led to charges that Canada is selling out its vast oil resources to the U.S. and failing to uphold the national interest in ensuring that refineries are built in Canada, with the benefits accruing to Canadians. In recent years, these voices have been amplified by the Canadian government's strategy to build new pipelines and expand existing ones. So that talks about the Keystone and all that. It says the Paper Workers Union, Energy and Paper Workers Union estimates that 18,000 Canadian jobs are lost for every 400,000 boils of bitumen that are exported. The opposition NDP has called for a national discussion on how to develop new refining infrastructure. They say would create jobs and bring in tax revenues, but has not said how they would overcome the economic challenges that have so far prevented new refineries from being built. Those challenges, it turns out, are daunting. The cost of a new refinery is pegged at $10 billion and would take years to construct. A new one hasn't been built in Canada since '84 or in the States since '76, although new refineries are in the works in Michigan and Illinois. A couple of years ago, BC newspaper mogul David Black raised a few eyebrows when he proposed to build a $25 billion refining complex in Kitimat using feedstock moved through a pipeline built with support of Native groups, many of whom oppose the current Enbridge proposal. So much for refineries built by Canadians for Canadians. So they say another major issue is excess refining capacity. While Canada only refines about a quarter of the oil it produces, so there you go, it refines more oil than it consumes. That means only newly constructed refineries would be refining oil for export, not for internal consumption. Well, that's a fact I didn't know. Did you know that we refine all the oil we need?
I knew that we did in Alberta.
I didn't know about the rest. So anyway, that is interesting. Thanks for that, buddy.